Okay. So hopefully you plan to be in. I didn't know it had ag business on there. That's pretty funny. I must have forgotten to take that off. On plant diseases and insects, PDI. So it is a 5-credit course, and basically we're going to be talking about. I think I'll close the door. I forget, it is noisy because we end up talking a lot out here. We won't be in here long enough to make it really hot. Okay, so if you haven't had me for a class before, I'm Gwen Stonke. We're going to keep meeting in here in room 1107. It should be A. I forgot to put the A on it. I have a class at 8:30, and then I've got an open. Are you on my? Oh, okay. Okay, there's plenty of room. You can go ahead and do that. Did you pick up a syllabus? Because I moved it over here, that's why. There you go. Okay, so we've got my office phone number up here, but I hardly ever answer that, so don't feel bad about that. If you don't, I forgot to put my cell phone on the syllabus. Can you see that over here, the cell phone? So that cell phone number is, I always have it on vibrate in my pocket, so if there was an emergency, that's the best way to get a hold of me, and just tell me who you are. Are you thinking about adding too? Or are you going to Debbie's class? Which, are you small business or diseases? Next room. Yeah, you're welcome. You can tell I'm getting used to this. Okay, so please just tell me who you are and what the problem is, because I know sometimes with Canvas, even though that's supposed to be your first and foremost thing, because we all use Canvas, sometimes those messages go somewhere that I have no idea where they go. So if you really need to get a hold of me, text me, tell me who you are, and I should get back to you right away unless I'm, indisposed for some reason or not. So go ahead and please feel free to do that. With the weather being kind of iffy this week, I mean, I know that it's supposed to get colder. I don't know how much snow we're supposed to get. I haven't really paid attention, but just watch on Canvas. They'll do alerts to your phone and everything. So just make sure, we'll adjust whatever, and on Canvas, and just don't endanger yourself because it's not that important to, we'll get it done. Okay, we have 2 books using in this class, and for right now, we're going to start out the quarter is divided up with the first half going over insects that we have in crops, and then the second part is diseases. Okay, so we're going to start out with this first one, Bugs Rule. And this is a really good book. I know you've got a used one over there. He said it was like $20 in the bookstore for a used one. The nice thing is with this one, I picked it up about 4 years ago when it was new, and it's got a lot of color pictures in it, so it's not your normal textbook that just goes by classification. You can't see what it is. So the reason I like this, if I was going to get a book on insects, I would get this because I can take it out into the field and show my customer what I'm looking at or whatever. And it's somewhat scientific, but not totally. It's got the Latin names in it and everything. But this is a great book for history, for talking about things. So it's a, how do you say, kind of a practical textbook, which is why I picked up that one. And then I have this as a recommended book for the second part of the quarter. This is probably the, how should I say, the most practical disease book that's been written as well, and it's got a lot of pictures in it. It's got a CD that comes with it too. So if you're interested in learning a lot about diseases, I'd say buy this one if you want it. You can get it off the APS website. All of these you can probably find cheaper on Amazon than the bookstore, so check. Okay, but if the used ones are probably going to be cheaper in the bookstore of this one. So see if you can get that. But if you're gonna be doing any consulting of any kind, these 2 books would be fairly good to have for that. I also have some other things. I'm just showing you these. I actually purchased one on organic management too. This is about a $150 book. Okay, so I just have things for you to look at. Later in the quarter, I'll bring them in. I've got a lab manual or an illustrated guide for identifying fungus or fungi. because most of our diseases we have are fungi. And I actually have a book on fungicides for field crops too. Okay, so things that you can look at. So I'll have them up in my office, or I'll bring them with me. We're not really working on the diseases yet, but I'll bring in, and I've got some of the Pacific Northwest management handbooks. I've got one on insects, and I've got the one on weeds that Matt has had in there too. So we've got all the control mechanisms there as well. So again, this one is recommended. This one, if you can get it, it's a good one. If you think you're never going to use it again, then I'll have slides and stuff up here. We can make it through without it if you want to. Okay, so most of my lectures I've had, even though this class isn't being taught online, I have recorded a lot of the lectures up online as well. So if you have to miss it, you can get the information instead of just looking at the slide set to go through it. But it's usually better because I find that the classroom interaction, even though there's just 10 of us in here, the classroom interaction gets pretty, how should I say, not heated, but it gets very interesting at times because we stray a little bit and there's new subjects coming in, just like the Zika virus coming in and how does that affect us, and looking at some of the things like the rust on coffee, having that, look what it did to the price of my coffee that I have to drink, right? If you've ever seen my office, it's messy, and it also says don't talk to me before I have coffee. Okay, so hopefully when we finish up with this class, I like this, recognize major body sections of insects. So you would know whether you're looking at the head or the rear end of an insect, I hope. Look at their mouth parts and be able to tell how they're feeding. Probably look at the plant and tell what they're feeding on. Okay, you can classify your insects based on developmental stages, and the main thing is for you to recognize the most damaging time or damaging part of the life cycle for that insect, so that you would know if you had an infestation, when's the best time to control it. Or if you've missed it, then don't apply anything at all because it's already passed. The damage is done, go on. Okay. So again, relate the stage of development to the time of the year, depending on, basically all the insects have, or I should say the insect will keep its same developmental stages, but it might speed up or slow down depending on temperature. Okay, the colder it is, the temperature, the life cycle will spread out and go slower. With higher temperatures, the life cycle tends to go quicker until it gets too hot and then it just stops. Okay, so those are kind of things that we'll look at. Place insects into their proper order. I'm not going to make you memorize those, but it will help you to know where those insects belong as far as control mechanisms. Identify commercially important non-insect vertebrates, invertebrates, which are pests of crops. So we've got spiders that we're going to deal with. They're mostly beneficial, but we'll look at scorpions a little bit, and slugs and some other things as we go through. So there's a whole smattering of things that we'll look at as well. So that'll take about the first half of the quarter, and then starting in the second half, we'll start looking at field crop diseases common to Washington. But first we're going to identify what fungi, bacteria, and viruses are and how common they are. The main reason we're looking at that is so we can determine what kind of control methods we can use. With the fungi, bacteria, and viruses, there's different environmental controls or environmental things we can do to limit them. Or, we could pick a crop that's resistant. So that will help us in timing our applications, or, in what crop we're going to grow or when we're going to plant, if we can have that kind of leeway to plant a little bit later or a little bit earlier. We're also going to look at some of the groups of, I missed 9. Recognize disease symptoms, and by looking at it, be able to determine when's the proper time to apply control procedures for it. We're going to look a little bit at some of the insecticides and fungicides, just so you're familiar with them. No memorization of that, but just so you can look at them and say that you've seen that name. And then if you're given a specific agronomic crop, you should identify the disease and insect pests, which are the most common economic problems. Okay, so it depends on the things that we discuss in here depend on your interests. I kind of lean it heavily towards who's in the class at that time, so I don't really have a set thing. So you can kind of indicate to me what you're interested in as we start here. And then mode of action for insecticides based on their chemical group, because that's important. So how does it go into the how does the insect take it up? How does it go into their body? How does it kill them? Okay, and pretty much with insecticides, those are the products that I'm most worried about affecting a human, because basically the way that most of the insecticides work are through the nerves and nerve endings, and we have the same synapses in our nerves, so if we get exposed to it, we could actually paralyze ourselves as well over a period of time. So again, read the label, all the stuff that, if you took Mike's AGPR 140, make sure you follow the label. Okay, so here's the order we're going to go through our discussions: external structure, internal structure of insects, development of insects, life cycles of insects, classification of insects, insect-related invertebrate pests. So that's the first 4.5 weeks, so you notice that that's taking up a lot of time. And you can see that this, I've got it only 3 weeks listed there, but it'll take us up to 4 weeks to finish that. And if we have time, we'll do some sprayer calibration. I know that Mike has done some of that in his class as well, so if we don't feel like we need it, we don't have to do it. Okay, I'll leave it up to, but if there's somebody in this class that hasn't had a chance to do sprayer calibration or work with it, I'd be happy to do that. Okay, so we can discuss that as we go on. Okay, I'm not going to take attendance, but I can kind of guess on how you're going to do by whether you come to class or not, or if you're keeping up online, since I can look and see when you log in. We're going to have 3 exams. I don't do a lot of spot quizzes, but I probably will announce it and say, hey, we went over this, be ready to maybe take a 10-point quiz or something. Okay? And then you're going to have a project at the end. So instead of a final exam, you have a project where you have to pick a crop, and I didn't bring anything with me for you to sign up today, but pick a crop, and actually it doesn't have to be the same crop, because you have to do 1 insect and 1 disease and research it and do 5-minute presentation on each one of them. So that's your final exam. Okay, so we'd usually do those, since there's probably about 10 or 11, we may have to start on Friday, but usually those presentations are done like the Monday and Tuesday of finals week. So there won't be a final exam in this class. And notice my grading system isn't any different than anybody else's. And this just goes through all the things we're going to do, which is a lot. On the last page of your syllabus, it has the IPM program assignment. So this is the breakdown for how your project will look at the end for your final exam. And we'll talk about this more. So basically, when you pick an insect or a disease, you say what family they're in, the genus and species, what its common name is, what crop it's a problem in, identify, say which features make it easy to identify or can separate it out from other things, where it's found, what its life cycle is, the life stage where it causes problems. And when I say pest, a pest can be anything. It can be an insect, a disease, or a weed. I could be a pest, you could be a pest, okay? Life stage for optimal control, injury caused, at least 2 control measures. For how you would do it, it could be biological control, it could be something else. You need to have pictures. Everybody's worked with PowerPoint or some form of presentation program, so it shouldn't be. If you need some help, let me know. It doesn't have to be, what I said, I'm trying to think. It doesn't have to be like a movie or something, but some people are more creative than others. I'm just going to be looking for the information that you can spell things right and show me some pictures. And then any other additional information. I have on the bottom of the Canvas website, I've got some other information on things, on different crops and different resources that you can use. Okay, and basically you need to list your sources on your presentation as well. Okay, so you got total of, and there is a sample in the last module of Canvas, okay, for the class. And I think that's it on the syllabus there. I'm going to go ahead and